Presh Williams from the Big Picture Film Club, joined by my co-host. And we're here at the London Independent Film Festival, hosted virtually. And we are joined here with a nice collection of filmmakers who are, have submitted their films and who are part of the film festival this year. So we'll be sort of chatting among them and finding out what connects us. Who would care to start?
I'll go.
Yeah.
So I'm JP Conway, or John Paul, but people tend to call me JP. I'm a director. I made an animated film, which I also wrote and produced, called The Pink Butterfly. It tells the story of a butterfly who becomes friends with a little girl. And the movie's like in memory of my little sister. So it's about her, but metaphorically. It's been pretty good. It was went in production in the end of 2019. I think December 2019 was when production started. It finished production in August of 2020. Took long. It was actually quite fast, really, but because I was self-funding, I was just throwing money at it whenever I could to get it to move along. And I had an animator in Italy who was working on it, and Italy got hit by COVID before England did, so they went into super duper lockdown, so the film got held up by that. And then we went into lockdown, so they got held up by that, and it was just like a constant thing. And the voice actor was in America, and so everyone's around the world. We're all in different lockdowns at different times, so it's just it was a crazy situation. But the movie came out, and I'm very proud of it. So that's me.
Let's go to Athena.
Hi, so I'm Athena Mendes. I'm the writer, director, and co-producer of Losing Grace, which is a short film which we shot on the Isle of Man in February 2020, so just before lockdown. We were quite lucky there, and we finished the post on it in January 21. So because of lockdown and everything, it was quite a slow Zoom linking experience with the editor, and so but it was great. And it was crowdfunded, so we funded personally as well, so we put through money at it and raised money. And the Isle of Man Arts Council were very generous as well in giving us some money because we shot on the Isle of Man. And it's the story of a mother and daughter who flee an abusive domestic situation. We don't show the abuse, we just show the part that's the aftermath and the fleeing, and it's sort of a poetic thriller type. So we're playing around expectations of who's the good guy, who's the bad guy in this. And we're really lucky because we've got Liz Farahadi, who played the mom Louise, and we also have Tabatha Howard, who played Grace. So it was amazing. Her debut film.
Liz and Tabatha, care to add on to that?
So it's we made this obviously last year, and it was something me and Athena had been working on over the year before, and the story had really grown and grown because the original, when we'd first started looking at it, and then we started doing research and we started going out and meeting people who'd been through these situations, and the more we started sort of scratching the surface and digging, suddenly the more we were like, wow, okay, this doesn't get talked about. In domestic violence, you always kind of see the violence and, that bit. But what comes after, that doesn't get covered. And it's shocking. We were absolutely dumbfounded by it. And we have had so many people who have been through this, who've supported the film. I mean, the crowdfunding was basically... it was just incredible, the support we got publicly, and the story, it just felt so important to make. And the other thing with it as well, when we were making it, we were very strong on the fact that we wanted to have to make sure that women were involved in making this, because, you know, in the film industry, it can be very male dominated, you know, behind the camera. And we had all our heads of department were women. It was, you know, all the main bits there. It wasn't 100%, but it was a big amount, which normally it's the other way round. And we felt that was really important because, you know, it's a female story, but that affects men as well, obviously. And we didn't want to make it the usual thing, and it, you know, it has you guessing all the way through. And yeah, then when it came to casting, it was Tabitha, who is my daughter. She did this incredible audition, and we went, okay, all right, this works. And it was a really, really lovely experience to do a film that obviously digs very deep and goes to some pretty dark places, but to do it in a really safe environment surrounded by lots of women. It was the most lovely set I've ever worked on. It really was. It was a really, really...
Not to say that men can't create a safe...
Not saying that at all.
We had men on set as well.
But it was just a very safe environment, and it meant that we were able to really explore the subject matter so deeply. And we had so much support and help from people who'd been through these experiences that we were able to bring so much truth to it. And it was really interesting because we had one of someone who actually works in this with the all these kinds of situations, who watched it, who said, I'm dealing with things like this all the time and it never makes me cry. I'm quite pragmatic. I get things. So she watched it, and it said some very nice things about it. And we were like, okay, we've hit the right spot. 'Cause it felt like a big responsibility to take this on, because we wanted to tell it truthfully.
But it was interesting how many people who were involved in the film had gone through that experience. That it sort of attracted... and that was only revealed after. It wasn't like, you know, that became a deciding factor on anybody joining the project. But it was interesting to see how many people had been touched by it. So it was it was definitely a humbling experience to serve this topic. You know, it became more than just us making a little film, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah.
And Sarah Matthews and Rodney Matthews, can you talk about Yendo and what that film's about?
Okay, well, it's our first film that we've made, and wrote it, produced it, husband illustrated it, so
made tea.
And made the tea, most importantly. It was a project that basically started in the 70s when Rodney designed this little characters in his lunch hour. And
my projects always have these long gestation periods.
But he was kind of
40,
sidetracked.
50 years.
Yeah, he was sidetracked by doing album covers and things for rock bands and fantasy sci-fi covers and stuff. So, but anyway, Yender is this little guy who really gets fed up of being the small one in the middle. There's him and his mum and dad. His dad talks about his adventures endlessly, and he wants to do the same. So one night he's in bed, he decides to sneak out, and he goes and meets these fantastic creatures, a grumposaur, a killwing, marauding scrawnies, the whole lot. And at the end, he's back in his bed, and you're just not quite sure whether or not he went on that adventure or whether it's a dream. Bit of a classic story, but...
Yeah, it was a long journey for us as well, because we, as Sarah said, the book originally, which the story comes from, was published by a British company that I worked for in the 70s, and they went bankrupt not long after. I don't believe it was because of me that happened. Change in fashion. So this book about this little guy, this is really for very young children, just sold a couple of 1,000 copies, and that was it, and it gathered dust thereafter. And then one day we were in the studio here, and Sarah saw the book, and she said, why don't we republish that? So we did, Great fun doing that. We got it published printed in the UK. We were very pleased with it, and then we thought this would make a nice little animation. It's very colourful. We try it out on our
nieces and nephews get forced to watch it.
Yeah, and they go crazy about it. Assuming you furnish them with sweets and things like that to say nice things. But it took us. How long did it?
Well, we started last March, and the book came out just before March, and I had bad pneumonia, possibly COVID, and we decided to record my narration on the last day before lockdown started. So we got the narration done, did a Kickstarter campaign, and thankfully it was successfully funded after we put quite a bit in ourselves. And then the animation, we worked with this awesome pair of animators. One was like consultant and one guy who did all the work on his own. And he's from Wales. He did an amazing job.
They lived there. It's Max Henry and John Rasheed.
Yeah.
I've known John for many years. He worked at Caulfield Hall in Manchester, the stop motion house. We got Oliver Wakeman, who I've worked with musically, to do the soundtrack, and we were very pleased with what he did.
Yeah, we had the narration recorded, we had the story, and we said to Oliver, would you like to do a score for us for this? And he did, and we were delighted because he ended up doing a full 17-minute score, which we were only thinking we might get a few little bits of music. Yeah. So it was quite exciting. Also really good, of course, to have the son of Rick Wakeman on the project. So that was nice. That was good for us.
Yeah.
So like creatively, and JP, you can sort of chime in on this. Like, how has that process been, sort of kind of getting animation done where you're looking to get the right sort of character drawings that sort of embody the idea or the messages that you want to convey? What was that process like, getting the characters just right as you saw them?
Well, visually speaking, we had the book there, and we actually used some of the illustrations in the book for the animation, but I sat down and I did a lot more animation, a lot more illustrations in watercolor. It's a watercolor thing. And Sarah did quite a lot of it. It's sort of a cutout animation thing. And Sarah, who's learned to do all these things very quickly, did most of the cutouts, and then we sent the files over to the animators. But we did have a sort of, the Bible was really in our heads. We just said, look, this little character, he's pretty naive. He wants to be like his dad. He goes out into this wild world, and he sort of escapes from seriously bad circumstances without even knowing it. It's almost like he's got this guardian angel. Yeah. But
Matt did a great job of. We were able to talk to him, and it was obviously all done through Zoom. And
wow.
Yeah, really hard, especially for Rodney, because he's used to being there. Like, he did an animation with the late Jerry Anderson many years ago, and you were used to being in the studio and telling people, do this, do that. And
that was
so it was hard.
Children's thing as well. It was. Once we got, it's not a hugely complicated film. Once we got established the basic character. The characters, a lot of them were animals, and a certain amount of humour in it. Yeah. Then I think the animators got onto the wavelength pretty quickly. And really,
I wonder if that's what happened with you, JP. Is it like?
Yeah. So with me, I kind of released a pitch of what I wanted, but without without giving any references for the animation, I wanted to see. I gave the animators little, like, they could draw one of the characters. I wanted to see who would draw one without knowing what I wanted, the one closest to what I wanted. I didn't want to tell them. I wanted to see, and I had a few people apply, like 15 people or so, and they all sent these different designs for the characters, and one of them was like this really bizarre animation that is like, it's definitely not what I'm going for. It's like really weird, creepy things. I was like, yeah, it's not the right vibe. So one entered with their full 3D animated, and like a bit like Pixar and whatnot, but it wasn't really what I was interested in. But then my animator Sarah Arantino from Italy, she made these drawings that were watercolor, and they look like a children's illustration book, so probably similar sort of thing to what you guys went for. And I really liked the look of it. It was what I had my drawings anyway, and what I wanted them to look like, and I put them next side by side. They were pretty much the same. So I hired her. She came on board, and then I did these very terrible storyboards that like were just awful. But I sent them all to her and did like frame by frame, a lot of the film of these terrible drawings, and she would adapt them into a much better animation, and that was the process for me. Yeah, it worked quite well.
Awesome. And I want to kind of bring in Athena now and kind of talk about if you could speak about I guess that the sort of crowdfunding and how important it is, particularly when you're doing short films, to kind of get that support from the community, like government bodies or like whoever, to kind of see your vision. And I'm sure like Sarah and Rodney can chime in as well.
I think crowdfunding has evolved over the years, because I think when we started this one, we made a conscious effort that it wasn't just about raising money. We had to look at it as a platform to talk about the film and to use that as part of the process in the development of this project. And I think that really served us, because it was through committing to that in the crowdfunding that we then found ourselves shooting on the Isle of Man. I mean, we'd said that we want to shoot on the Isle of Man, but we've never been there. We didn't know if that was feasible. Didn't even know where it was, to be honest. It sounded far away and somewhere you don't want to go. So if you wanted to escape, sounds like that's where I would go. And but it was because we were doing it, someone went, oh, if you want to shoot in the Isle of Man, then they are here in London having an event for anyone shooting. And went, oh. So Liz and I literally turned up, not knowing what to expect. And we went, oh, we're shooting the Isle of Man. And they were quite excited. And I said, actually, we have to go now. So we went the following week. We just turned up and said, we're here. And because not a lot happens on the Isle of Man, they did rally around us. And that's when we felt like things were happening. So the crowdfunding gave us more than just the money to make the film. Like, it was through the links then that, accommodation and location costs were gifted to us, which was, worth probably more than 5,000. And that was because the woman who had cottages and came on board as she had, the story resonated with her. So it was a way of actually talking about the project and showing people our vision without us just, babbling on about it. We had a little trailer that we shot, which was a great way of, testing Tabitha and also working with the DP before we even began to shoot. So we began the dialogue. So crowdfunding, I know people sometimes cringe at it because you feel like you're going cat to mouth to people saying, "God, give me some money to make my film," and it feels a very kind of begging attitude, but actually it's not. And what we found was there's that barrier. I don't know what you guys found, but about $2,000 is people and that know you, sort of thing, kind of feeling sorry for you. And then there's that next barrier, which is actually people who don't know you and are interested in your story, in what you have to say, resonating with it on some level. And then they're the ones actually that give more money. So people you don't know suddenly giving you a couple of hundred here and there. You go, who are these strangers? Yeah,
we found that too. It was very case of family put in, but then we were blown away by a few people who went for some of the bigger rewards, and then some of those people, they didn't actually want the rewards, they just wanted to be involved, and people that, I mean, we had people who was fans of Rodney's anyway, but it was quite humbling experience, and we really tried to make it so that everybody felt part of the journey with us. I think everybody wanted Yender to get to go on his journey. They sort of got behind this little boy and like, he needs to do this. He can't stay at home any longer. He's got to do what his father does and get out there. And it was really nice to see people like championing this little boy.
Yeah.
And did you find, because when that happens on the crowdfunding, it stops becoming, you're now committed to making this. There's a little bit of you before that feels that this might not happen and you're trying to kid yourself that it will. But suddenly now you're committing to this because there's these people who believe in you, and you might not believe in yourself 100%, but these strangers want this to happen. And I felt that so humbling that it was our drive really to go through.
Yeah, we had like someone got in touch with us, and they had actually been one of the 1,000 people who had bought Rodney's book in the 70s. And he said that he wanted to put money into the campaign because the characters in that book had become a household name for him and his whole family growing up, and they would refer to each other as the Grumpusaur, and they really backed it, and they said that they cried when they saw the little guy come alive and step out the book, and it was nice.
I didn't realise it was that bad.
Because you crowdfunded as well, didn't you, JP, sorry.
No, actually, I just self-funded mine. So, I mean, I did think about crowdfunding, but I was quite lucky in the animator. That was the main cost, was the animation. She really liked the story, and she gave me a ridiculous discount. So, like, her rate that I hired her at initially was like $125 a day, and then she ended up doing like 7 months of work, and she only wanted to be paid $2,500 in total. I was like, that doesn't add up. $5 a day. So she gave me a ridiculous discount because she liked the story. And the voice actor as well, he gave me he liked the story, and he wanted to do it, so he did it for $500, which was quite nice of him to take the time and to do the narration. So really, it didn't cost me that much in the end. But I got lucky. The people wanted to not get paid. So
I mean, it's not luck. I think it just means it's a testament to your work. I think when you've got you've got a good story and you've got a good passion and vision to do, people rally around that. And the crowdfunding is the same. It's people rallying around that vision and being inspired by, us saying we're going to do this, and then feeling part of that journey and fostering that community, which is it's always beautiful. So, yeah, I really, I think I've done crowdfunding for another 2 films, and I think my attitude has changed towards it. I think it's a really great way of allowing the work to be shared and for people to feel part of what filmmaking is, and it just breaks down a little bit of that hierarchy, and we can all be a part of it, and it is fun.
It feels like it's their film too, and that's all along. We're like, you did it, and they were so pleased that they were part of the journey. It was brilliant. Yeah.
And just to wrap up, and the question goes out to everyone, what do you want audiences to take away when they watch your films at this year's festival?
I think definitely with Losing Grace, we want people to know that actually we're aware their voices are being heard, and there's some opportunities for support and help, because through it we managed to find people who are actually doing practical help out there. And there were so many people who came who felt like no one's ever listened to us, we're alone, and suddenly they were like, oh my God, I'm not alone. So I think hope with our film.
Although our film is not very hopeful.
Well, it's not like comedy, happy.
It's like it's complicated. I think the situation. I think unless there is a shift and change, this is the outcome for people. But yeah, it is an awareness film on one level, but also we hope that they, engage with it as a film in the, the emotional highs and lows of it.
And I hope as well that people that haven't experienced this as well can suddenly see it from the different point of view. I think, because I think that's how things shift, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people who have felt like, I've been through this and no one hears me, I'm all alone, no one believes me. And if actually, other people can start changing their perceptions as well, I think then things can change for the better.
Yeah. Great.
With my movie, I think the thing I'm trying to get people to take away, really the film was made more a very small audience. It was more for my family. It's about my sister, and she passed away, so it's in memory of her. And my parents, more than any other member of the family, haven't ever really gotten over it. Obviously, they miss her very much, and they always very sad about it. And when I had a home screening of the film, and that was the first time any of them even had heard of the project because I kept it a secret. They as soon as it started, my dad, who never cries, instantly started crying as he realized what it was about, and they both said that it kind of helped them accept really that what happened, and it had been 6 or so years since it happened, but and my mom, she's shown it to people that she works with. She works with children with cancer, and that's what the film is about. And some of the children are also, even though the film didn't, the girl dies, they've found comfort in watching it, and other people go through similar things, and I want people to take that away from it. Childhood illness is obviously horrible, but this film is just about that acceptance of the reality of it, and it's drawn in this childhood story way and presented in a way that's friendly for children. There's nothing too graphic in it. It's just a nice acceptance of reality, I think.
Yeah.
For Yender, well, from me anyway, I kind of feel that the film was made throughout COVID, and people were stuck at home, and not everyone was fortunate enough to have a nice place to go out to, or out to the woods or something like that, and some people really it was tough, and it still is tough, and people need to escape. And our movie is pure escapism, something that just to take you away from a little bit from the troubles that you're in, and just, you can dream, and you need to dream big, and I think it's hugely important. It's something that is very important to me, having once been told to keep my expectations low and I won't be disappointed. And then I met this man and he told me to dream big, and that is what Yender really is about. Dream big, and go for that journey. Dream big.
Yeah, dream big for children, basically. But we hope that adults get the message as well.
Yeah, it made my mom cry, so that's good.
I think that's a great message to end on. Thank you all so much for your time. Losing Grace, The Pink Butterfly, and Yender is available to watch all through the week at London International Film Festival, and we have been the Big Picture Film Club. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.